Howdy, folks. I'm a puny purple finch, precisely preening with persnickety parrots.
I'm Amber.
And, the parrots, they're very cold.
No, this is indoors. The parrots are nice and happy.
Let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Feeding My Daughter? So, my high school senior just turned 18, time flies, and is soon going to be an independent college student. She has always been mature and tempered, so what happened is something I really didn't expect. Her father and I are now trying to get her as independent as possible in these few upcoming months before she leaves home, like any parent would want. The big controversy came a few days ago when we were talking about her graduation over dinner. I made the terribly inconsiderate comment that her graduation dinner will be the last free meal she can expect under this roof. She would not be allowed to grab our leftovers either. Instantly came cries and yelling and accused me of starving my child. First of all, we are not kicking her out. We simply ask that she takes care of her own meals. She would be almost closer to 19 by her graduation. I do not see why allowing her to be independent is abusive. I told her that she has multiple months to look for a quick job opportunity, learn a few basic recipes, and be prepared. I would be more than happy to help her cook. I just won't be doing it for her. In fact, this is a valuable skill that she will need for her whole life. She asked me to write this up on this forum so the internet can show you you're wrong. Again, I'm treating her like an adult as she is one now. Update. There are way more comments than I thought there would be. I'm taking a break off this website for a little bit while I figure things out. There have been some convincing points made. Alright, folks, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Opie's being the jerk here. It's not like turning 18 or 19 magically turns someone into an adult. Like, some people just have this thing where they treat their kids like kids up until they're adults, and then, like, oh, poof, now you have to be an adult. Honestly, OP should have been working on the daughter with the cooking skills for years. It just feels like such a abrupt thing to be like, okay, now you're learning to cook in 5 months, and you're also gonna have to get a job, and you're gonna have to pay for all your own food. Like, this is way too much, too fast.
Well, I think that they have good intentions, and I think that they really want to push their daughter to be independent, and I think that's an okay idea, but I think the way they're approaching this might not be the best way. And I understand like what they're getting at here. Like, they want their daughter to be able to make their own meals and be independent. But they're going to college and they're going to be mostly independent anyways. So it's not like, it feels more like kind of a moot point, right?
Well, and if they're living in a dorm, like, you don't really make your own foods. Like, I
Yeah.
know most first year students live in dorms where they have a cafeteria they eat
hmm
at. You don't have your personalized cooking spaces.
Yeah. And that's it, is that it feels more like they're just being wanted to make a quick jab at their daughter as opposed to actually wanting to teach them a sincere lesson. Because what parent is like, this is the last meal you're going to get?
Well, and like, does OP cook food for her husband? Does her
Yeah.
husband
Yeah.
cook food for her? Like, you can have adults in a household who cook food for each other.
Yeah.
It just feels very isolating. Like, it would be one thing to be like, okay, well, we're gonna rotate the chores a bit, and 2 nights a week, you're gonna make a meal for the whole family.
Yeah.
They can all take turns feeding each other. It's more of a communal experience versus, okay, you're on your own. I'm gonna make food for your dad because even though he's an adult and can make his own food.
And why don't you sit down with us and eat a packet of ramen?
Exactly.
And that's really what it kind of feels like, as opposed to, it feels more punitive. It feels more like they're trying to punish her for graduating, as opposed to trying to usher her into life and help her succeed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Parents, in my opinion, maybe not everyone might share this, but a parent's goal should be to help their child to succeed at life and
Mm-hmm.
give them whatever head start that they can in life. I mean, and if you aren't doing that, you have to ask yourself, why am I not allowing my child the opportunities to succeed more?
Right. Well, and what these like rush things do is usually just thrust kids into situations where they struggle and don't learn the proper skills. Like, if the daughter has 5 months to learn how to cook while she's still doing school and all this other stuff, she's probably going to go straight to like the quick meals like instant ramen and whatnot, instead of if it's like a family meal or something like that. And it's just like a gradual introduction. She's going to be able to develop the skills and not be rushed into it, not be rushed into finding a job, so she can pay for all her food because otherwise she's going to starve.
hmm So I just think that while OP has good intentions, and again, I don't think that they're ill-intentioned here. I don't think that they're approaching this in the best way, and I don't think that they approached the raising of their child in the best way if they haven't learned these skills and they're saving them to the last 5 months while they're living here, right? Those should have been, like Amber said, fostered throughout their childhood so that they would have those skills when they, leave house. And then if you want to teach your kid more financial responsibility, help them to, build a budget.
Mm-hmm.
Like help them see what the household budget is and how things operate and how much food costs. That way
Right.
they can get a sense of like, oh, food's expensive. I should be careful about how I spend my money.
Right, and you can have the kid like plan a meal for a week or something like that and look up all the, because you can do all your grocery shopping online, so they can look up all the prices, like here's a budget, and like see if you can make a meal for the family
Yeah.
for a week.
Yeah, and giving them budgets like that and saying, well, you're going to pick out the groceries for us, you're going to cook the meal, and you have to stay within this certain budgeted amount. I think would be a really valuable lesson to kind of show them, oh, this is how you budget, this is how you make sure that you have enough money for certain things. And again, like this isn't going to cover all of the scenarios that they need because there's a lot of expenses to life.
Mm-hmm.
There's like car insurance, there's health insurance, there's, rent, all these different expenses that are going to be difficult for her to really know about until she actually has to get her own apartment and start, fending for herself.
Right. Well, and also don't just throw her to the deep end, because it seems like Opie's like, okay, we got 5 minutes and months, and I'll help you until then, but then you're completely on your own.
Yeah.
If she still has trouble with things, like still help her, because she's still part of your family. Like being an adult does not mean she's fully independent and needs no help ever again.
I just think that's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, just because of like my own experiences. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what that probably was supposed to mean.
That's what it meant in my household, so we were not thrown to the wolves.
Yeah, you weren't thrown to the wolves. I
No.
wasn't thrown to the wolves. I survived. I survived fine. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Impossible Letter 341 says, info. Are you insisting that she buy all of her own ingredients, or are you just saying that she needs to cook? If she needs to buy everything, you're the jerk. Don't just stop supporting her at graduation, especially if she reached this age and you haven't already taught her how to cook. If you're recognizing that you missed the mark by not teaching her how to cook, and this is your way of offering to make it right, not the jerk, but your delivery was terrible. And OP replies, my original plan was the first, but I'm figuring things out at the moment. I just thought that since she would have a job, something that she herself wants, that she would buy her own food. My daughter won't stop reading every single comment out loud as I'm writing this.
Well, and also I think OP underestimates how much money people make working minimum wage when they're also going to school. Like the daughter's probably only going to be working like 10 or 15 hours a week,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I mean, now that she's 18, she would be able to probably be able to work full time if she wanted to, but that would really interfere with her school, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like in the time leading up to when she graduates, like she's only going to have so much time to work
Yeah,
and still do her schoolwork. And so expecting her to save all this money so she can afford her groceries.
yeah. And CT Mom 79 says, you're the jerk. All of a sudden, you're not a family that eats together anymore because she's graduating? What a terrible parent you are. Typically, with today's economy, kids can't afford to move out right away. There would have been nothing wrong with asking her to chip in for groceries and take responsibility for some of the cooking, but instead you cut her out. I wouldn't blame her once she moves out if she goes low contact. And OP replies, we can definitely eat together, of course. I just want her to cook for herself. Again, I'm writing to help her learn in these last 5 months. But I think the disconnect here with OP is like you're saying that she can eat with you, but
Mm-hmm.
again, is she going to be eating packets of ramen while you're eating, a full meal?
Right. It's like, is this what happened to OP and her husband when they were kids, or like, are they just making this up now?
Well,
Like,
I was giving this a lot of thought about like why the attitudes kind of shifted because this is pretty common in American society, from what I understand, to like boot your kids when they turn 18, right? It's a common thing. I don't know how common it is, but it's common enough that this is a topic that comes up, right? Now, I think at one point in time, the economy in the United States was such that you could go out as a kid, get a job, and be able to support yourself and rent and everything immediately when you got out of the house. And because that isn't really the case anymore, people kind of still expect you to be able to do that, but the financial resources aren't there. Because, I mean, you look back at the old television shows, and I don't know how reflective these are of the society at the time, but, people would move out of their home and immediately get married at, 18 and 19, be supporting their family on, a milkman's wages and doing just fine for themselves, right? And whether or not that was the case. I mean, I'm sure things were tight. I'm not saying they weren't tight for people, but you would still be able to at least support yourself to some degree. And I think that level of support is just not there on a minimum wage job now.
Right. Well, the cost of living has gone up so much and wages have stagnated and like just even renting a place like is so far out of reach for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, if your rent costs $2,000 a month and you're earning $15 an hour, you're working the 40 hours a week, earning $15 an hour full time, assuming you're full time, then that's still gonna be basically 3 weeks worth of work just to afford rent, right? And that means that you have to get roommates, and that's not a problem, but means that you do have to at least know people, have connections in order to actually be out on your own. It doesn't mean that you can just go out and rent a place and be fine.
Yeah. So I think the moral of the story is even if something worked out well when, you were a kid, it doesn't necessarily mean it applies to today's youth.
All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Boyfriend That He's Ridiculous for Being Jealous of a 7-year-old Boy? I'm a 27-year-old female, and I live in an apartment with my boyfriend, a 26-year-old male. Our neighbors include a couple in their 30s with their 7-year-old son. I'm good friends with a lady, and her son is just adorable. Sometimes he comes over to show me something fun that he made at school, or just spend time. All with the parents' knowledge and permission, of course. My boyfriend always used to joke that the kid is a threat and in direct competition with him. I just rolled my eyes every single time. Unfortunately, the lady recently told me that she's divorcing her husband. Naturally, this is a difficult time for her son, and he's been very withdrawn over the past week. A few days ago, he knocked on our door and cried to me about his parents splitting up. I took him in and I hugged him. I kissed him on the cheek and I made him a little snack, etc. In the meantime, my boyfriend was moping around in the background. When I dropped the kid back off at his parents', my boyfriend called me unbelievable. He basically said that the boy gets more action than he does, and that I'm so affectionate and caring with him. I said maybe this is to do with the fact that we're talking about a literal child here, and I'm old enough to be his mother, so duh, I'm going to treat him like that? But he wouldn't listen. He even said that he wished that he got a full face full of breasts when he cries, and that I never caressed his hair like that. At this point, I called him ridiculous and absurd for being jealous of a 7-year-old. We had a big argument. At the end, I told him that he needs to get over his irrational attitude. He said that whilst he likes my slightly bee and cold attitude personality, this was news to me, I didn't know that he thinks of me as slightly bee and cold. He wishes that I was a bit of a softie too sometimes. Am I the jerk or is he? All right, folks, what do you think of this situation?
I think a breakup is in order.
I think this is very disturbing.
Yeah, like if he is this jealous over a child who is going through a rough situation, getting
Yeah,
a
yeah,
hug,
yeah.
like you're not treating him like a child because he's not a child. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you do things for children you don't do for adults. You coddle them a bit more, you make them snacks. He's an adult.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping his comments are flippant, right? I'm assuming that he's not really serious that the kid is in direct competition with him, and I'm assuming that what he's saying is more tongue in cheek. And I'm going to give him that benefit of the doubt because I absolutely have to, because otherwise the implications are terrible, right? Now, I think that what he's trying to say is that he wants OP to be more affectionate with him, which is fine, right?
But this is not the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, coming out and being like, the little kid gets more action than me is not a good approach. And it really kind of signals to me that what happens if OP has a friend who she gives a hug to that happens to be male? Well, how is he going to react in that particular case?
Right. Well, and the whole, it just reeks of jealousy. Like, I think there's more to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't want OP to have relationships with any dude,
Yeah.
because then it's time she's not spending with him. He's the only one who's entitled to her hugs and
Affection
whatnot.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, like if he has needs that he needs met, then there are healthy ways to communicate those needs, and he
Mm-hmm.
really should be communicating those. And I suggest therapy. Like, I think that he needs to go into therapy. He needs to learn how to communicate better. He needs to learn how to articulate himself and use his big boy words in order to tell people what he needs in a relationship.
Right. I mean, you can say that I wish that you were more affectionate without being like, how dare you show this kid affection?
Yeah, how dare it be like you chose the creepiest possible way to say you want more affection, and you expect your girlfriend to be like, yeah, maybe he has a point here. No, I mean, like, yeah, there might be a subtle underlying point to everything the guy is saying, but unfortunately it's just completely like masked over by the way he's saying it. So I don't think that OP is in the wrong here. I think that she didn't even know there was a problem. And
Mm-hmm.
how can you fix a problem in a relationship that you don't even know exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I guess she could have maybe uh, read into his words a little bit with his whole always being like the kid's competition or jealous or something like that.
I would
But
just see that though as OP being real, as the boyfriend being really insecure. Like,
mm-hmm,
I wouldn't assume that signaled a relationship problem. Well, I mean,
mm-hmm.
obviously, but like, I wouldn't assume like it means, oh, I'm not affectionate enough. I'd assume, oh wow, this guy is ridiculously jealous, and I should probably not be in this relationship anymore.
Yeah. So again, I think that OP is fine in this situation. I think her boyfriend needs counseling. I think he needs to go into therapy and work on some issues. And in the meantime, while he fixes himself, OP should find a different partner who is not going to be jealous of a 7-year-old. So that's just how it goes. Sometimes you need to learn and grow in life, and hopefully he can take this as a learning opportunity to understand why what he's saying here is so problematic. And I have to give him the benefit of the doubt that everything he's saying here is flippant, is tongue in cheek, and not necessarily serious. Because of course a kid is not going to be competition in an intimate adult setting type of thing, right? And if they were, then you would all deserve to be in jail. So that's kind of my point here. Well, let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is coffee time. Grab your coffee of choice. I've got some coffee right here, and Amber, she has a coffee-related joke.
No, I don't. What do you call a bovine sea monster that occupies the waters of Scotland?
I call them coffee because that's their name.
No, Bessie.
Bessie? No, that's a nickname. Their real name is Coffee.
No.
And the reason why their real name is Coffee is because have you ever seen the waters in Loch Ness? They're really dark and murky like coffee. And so they live in the coffee water. But
No.
don't drink the Loch Ness water like that because it's probably not healthy. And I have coffee.
I have water.
Alright, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Spectacular Saturday. I hope your Saturday is going spectacularly. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please, have it some advice for a parent that might be a little misled.
Childhood and adulthood are not firm boundaries, and your kid may need you even after they are legally an adult.
I think that is good advice. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.